in this video today, mainstream media once again has been caught lying to the American public. This time it's about what happened at Dodger Stadium this morning. Also, President Trump has made a huge announcement in regards to Israel and Iran. And finally, Candace Owens made a statement yesterday about military soldiers that I think will leave you stunned. But first, let's start here.
Here's what it looked like earlier this morning. Dozens of ICE agents gathering with their faces hidden, wearing tactical gear. This was shot around 9 o'clock this morning before the agents headed out to various locations in the area. We're hearing from elected officials that LA Council District 1 workers alerted LAPD of the staging at Dodgers Gate. LAPD then notified the Dodgers, and the organization apparently told the ICE agents to leave the property. But there are still a handful of masked federal agents here. Councilmember Eunices Hernandez showed up about 45 minutes ago and is upset that the agents have not left.
We've been in communication with the mayor's office, with the Dodgers, with Dodger Security, about seeing if they can get them moved off their private property. Public property is different, but private property, businesses and corporations have the power to say, not on my property. And so we're waiting to see that movement happen here.
Okay, so here's what you need to know about this story. In fact, it's the perfect example why you have to do your own research and don't listen to local news or mainstream media when they're talking about these ICE raids. Now, according to Homeland Security, this had nothing to do with the Los Angeles Dodgers. In fact, Custom and Border Patrol vehicles were only in the stadium parking lot briefly, and it was unrelated to any operation or enforcement. And of course, LAPD contacted the Dodgers. The Dodgers released this statement that claims that ICE agents requested permission to access the parking lots and were denied. Well, according to Adley Bradley, who is a correspondent at News Nation, she says she talked to her sources and that the teams went to Hollywood Home Depot, which is nearby, to make apprehensions. They did make those apprehensions, and then they were going to transfer them to transport vans off Sunset Boulevard. But when things escalated outside of the Home Depot, they went to an open parking lot at Dodger Stadium to make the consolidated transfer. Agents say no one came over and nobody told them to leave. So I guess the question is, who do you believe exactly? Now, let me show you a clip of protesters who did show up and what they had to say. All right, now before we get to what Tom Homan had to say about all this, first let me share this message from today's sponsor. If you know someone on Medicare, don't swipe away, because I want to share with you how my audience is starting to save thousands of dollars on Medicare. Medicare enrollment is complicated, and it's no accident. The more confused you are, the easier it is for brokers to steer you into overpriced plans that make them more money while claiming that they are unbiased. Trump's Department of Justice just sued 3 of the biggest brokers in America for allegedly doing exactly that. And the victims? Everyday American, parents, grandparents, and people who paid into the system for decades and deserve better. This is why I recommend Chapter just for you. Chapter's advisors make Medicare simple and always put you first. They're independent, unbiased, and the only national advisors that compare every single plan to find the one that actually fits your needs. All you have to do is click the link in the description below or call 323-431-5200. Again, that's 323-431-5200. All right, how much you want to bet that these are the same type of people who believe in defunding the police, soft on crime? And now, this is not the only issue that ICE is facing. It's also the recent confirmation from the White House that they will continue to conduct ICE raids on farms and restaurants and hotels. And Tom Homan did come out this morning and he talked about that. Take a listen.
Sherman, what do you say to farmers who are growing increasingly concerned that immigration enforcement is going to hurt their ability to do their jobs and thus hurt the U.S. economy and broadband?
Well, first of all, there's a right way and wrong way to hire workers. There are legal programs that bring farm workers in. Second of all, I've been saying for years, Congress needs to address this. But because Congress failed to address doesn't mean we ignore it. I mean, it's illegal to hire, knowing you hire an illegal in. But like I just talked about a few minutes ago, Worksite enforcement operations, just like at-large operation, we're going to base them on priority, right? For those we have a criminal nexus of trafficking, of forced labor, of tax fraud or tax evasion. I mean, we will concentrate on work sites on a prioritized basis, just like we do at-large operations. So anything, let's just go farm, look for illegal aliens. We'll prioritize those who have a criminal nexus first.
All right, let's understand exactly the point that he continues to make. And it just makes perfect sense to me. I don't know about you, but it's the same thing with sanctuary cities. Once you have illegal aliens who are known to commit crimes, clearly they're going to find places where they'll get away with it easily, where they will be protected and not exposed to federal agencies. Where is that exactly? In sanctuary cities. Well, within those sanctuary cities, where else would they be located? At workplaces, at hotels, at farms, even potentially restaurants. And the reality is, because I've owned a restaurant too, these people are not always checking somebody's immigration status. Now, you're supposed to by law, but not everybody's doing it, especially in California.
One quick follow-up. On Thursday, ICE told agents to hold off on investigations of farms and hotels, absent some other sort of criminality. Was this ICE acting on their own, and what is the
ICE was not, like ICE's enforcement laws enacted by Congress. Worksite enforcement operations is an important part of the work we do. Again, where do we find most victims of trafficking? Worksite. Joe Biden stopped worksite. They said they cared about sex trafficking and forced labor trafficking. Then they stopped worksite enforcement. That was a dumb move.
So what was that email from Tatum King?
It's a matter of messaging, proper messaging. The message is clear now that we're going to continue doing worksite enforcement operations, even on farms and hotels, but based on a prioritized basis. Criminals come first.
Yeah, so that's the way the administration sees it. I see it the same way. I'm sure you do too. We should be prioritizing criminal illegal aliens, but there's only one problem. Democrat mayors do not see criminal illegal aliens for who they really are. They see them as victims. In fact, they believe the criminals are the ICE agents who are doing the job that Congress has enacted. And as a result, you have these Democrat mayors who have been already caught doxing ICE agents. And here's an example that just happened today. The mayor out of Nashville claims that he doesn't need to apologize for doing it, and it was an accidental mistake. Take a listen.
Back there.
Hi, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News. Okay. Do you believe that posting the names of federal immigration officers endangers them?
Well, this was really an issue where they were already part of a public record by being in Department of Emergency Communications calls, so I don't think it puts them at additional risk, but it's also not an intention of the executive order under which those names were released.
So if it doesn't put them at additional risk, why did your office decide to remove the names?
It wasn't an intentional process. We've had primarily using local departments, we've had multiple people whose names have been there, but again, this is something new. We're reviewing it. We've obviously had some concerns from DHS about release of those names. They would still be discoverable, but that was not an intent of the executive.
Do you understand the concerns of DHS when they're talking about endangering federal immigration officers by posting the names?
I understand the concerns, but it's not a process that I would characterize as doxing. It was an unintentional release of names that were already part of a public record.
So would you agree with them that releasing the names endangers them, or was it just to kind of appease
I wouldn't
HSI?
say it was an endangerment process. I would say they may have some concerns. I'm far more concerned about the overall dynamic we have about unmarked, unidentifiable, masked people whisking people into vehicles. I think that's a bigger concern.
Okay, and
all right, well, I guess we better.
Yeah, so they had to cut it short because we were getting down to the truth. And the truth is really this, that the Nashville mayor believes that ICE agents doing the duties that Congress has passed in laws for them to do is more concerning than Lincoln Riley, Rachel Moore, and all the other criminal legal aliens who are doing heinous things in our country. Okay, and let's circle back to Tom Homan because he continues to make the case on why it's necessary to target farms, hotels, and restaurants. Take a listen.
The president got elected on two things: securing the border and run the deportation operation. Historically, look, we can't send a message to the whole world. You can enter this country legally, which is a crime. You can have your hearing at great taxpayer expense and lose and get an order removal. But don't worry, we're not looking for you. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix the immigration problem. There has to be consequences. We gave millions of people due process under Joe Biden. Let millions of people in. They said, I demand due process. I demand to see a judge. And they had that right. but 90% of them lost. So the immigration judge says, you lose, you must go home. If we don't execute those orders, Stuart, then what the hell are we doing? You might as well shut down the immigration court, because the immigration court doesn't mean anything anymore. Take the border patrol off the border, because there's no consequences. We're national laws. We got to enforce those laws.
I respect Tom Homan so much because I believe he has firsthand experience on what happens when you just open the border and you let all these people in, and how bad it is for the children out there that are, in my opinion, forgotten. I mean, hundreds of thousands of children are in the hands of the wrong individuals who seek to do harm to them, unfortunately. And so that's why I really respect not only his work, but every time he comes out, he tells the truth. Now, let's go to our next story, because this is another significant update to the conflict between Israel and Iran. And no matter what side you fall on in regards to the way that you see this, I think you're going to respect the development that came from the president today. Let's hear exactly what happened. Take a listen.
The ongoing situation in Iran. I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
President Trump allowing room for diplomacy before making a call, as the White House makes clear his decision does not hinge on any question of whether the U.S. military could eliminate the site at Fordo with bunker buster bombs. An official also telling Fox no options have been taken off the table after reports of mixed assessments on bunker buster efficacy at the Pentagon and a report in The Guardian that the only surefire option, a tactical nuke, was not being considered.
Yeah, so guys, this is a huge update from President Trump. And I would argue this rebukes the hysteria that we've seen primarily on the right. You had people who claim to be conservative and Trump supporters say that he's violating all American principles and we should drop him. Okay. And of course, we heard what was being said on the left, which is nonsense as well. And then we saw that Congress was trying to pass legislation to prevent the president from executing military action. So the fact that he's going to take 2 weeks to try to work out a deal once again with Iran shows that they're truly trying to exercise diplomacy here. Now, let's not be naive. There are people out there that believe that this isn't going to work. Iran is not interested in diplomacy. They're interested in going to war. So we'll see what happens. Now, here is the White House press secretary confirming what would be in a potential deal with Iran. Take a listen.
Thanks, Caroline. What exactly would a deal with Iran need to entail?
No enrichment of a uranium, and it would absolutely not. Iran is not absolutely not able to achieve a nuclear weapon. The president has been very clear about that. And by the way, the deal that Special Envoy Witkoff proposed to the Iranians was both realistic and acceptable within its terms, and that's why the president is sent that deal to them.
Now, what's interesting is what MSDNC did last night with Democrat Ro Khanna. They posted a poll that showed a significant amount of Americans who do not want to get involved with this war in regards to Iran. Now, what's interesting is you can get the poll to say what you want it to say based on the way that you ask the question. I think we all know that inherently. And I'm not actually in a disagreement with this poll. I think it totally makes sense. But I do want to make a point. Let me first play the clip, and then I'll tell you what it is. Take a listen.
I thought it'd be useful to show some polling, the first that we have on this. And again, this is early. I think these are fairly dynamic situations that can change. And obviously, there are parts of, like, say, Fox News that are trying to change this. But this is the first polling we have. Economist YouGov. Among U.S. adults, should the U.S. military get involved in Iran? That's a big number. Yes, 16%. No, 60%. Don't know, 24%. Among Republicans, yes, 23%, no, 53%, 24% don't know. You surprised by that?
I'm not. I mean, this country is weary and exhausted of war. Frankly, I'd like the Democratic Party at least to be unified in calling for these resolutions, Senator Kaine, Senator Sanders, and mine in the House to come for a vote. I mean, you should have Senator Schumer was frankly ambiguous in whether he wants to stand against this war. We need to be clearly positioning ourselves against the war. Now, some people will say, oh, there's support when you look at a strike on Fordo to take out the nuclear facility. It's more close in the polls. That's like if you had asked in the Iraq war context, do you want to take out surgically Saddam Hussein? I'm sure you would have gotten support for that. The problem is wars never end that way.
Right.
And it's inevitable. It will draw us into a messier war, and Americans don't want that.
All right. And here's the point that I want to make. You can get the poll to say what you wanted to say based on the questions that you're asking. So if you ask people, do you support America going to war with Iran? Most people are going to say no by default. Second question, do you support Iran having a nuclear weapon? Most people will say no. And here's the most important question. If it is proven that Iran has a nuclear weapon, should America seek to remove it? And most people would say yes. And if military action is required to remove this nuclear weapon, do you support that? Most people will say yes. And again, that doesn't mean boots are on ground, and I don't support that, to be clear. But the fact of the matter is President Trump has got to make some hard decisions here. I definitely wouldn't want to be in that position. And for all those people out there criticizing him, whether you're on the left or the right, it's easy to do that behind a keyboard. Now, let's go to our next story. And this is in relation to military soldiers. And it's unfortunate that I actually have to do this story. And usually I refrain from criticizing or calling out other conservatives or people who are in the space, but I feel compelled to speak on this. First, what I want to do is play you a clip from Stephen A. Smith, where he is pretty much praising Candace Owens, who she is and why what she says matters. And then we're going to circle back with a clip that she released yesterday that I want to talk about. Let's start here.
I know that some of you out there may not have wanted to hear a damn thing that Candace Owens had to say, but 4+ million people subscribe to listen to her every chance they get. And not everybody in America, or this world for that matter, can say that. What she says matters. And a lot more often than not, she seems to know what the hell she's talking about. It's very rare you hear somebody says, she's clueless. She don't know what she's saying. You don't hear that about her. You want to refute what she has to say and defy her positions? You better know what the hell you're talking about. Because she certainly does usually, if not always. That's why I had her on the show.
Okay, well, Stephen A. Smith is right about one thing. It's very rare that you hear somebody say that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Well, this happens to be that rare time. So I saw a clip on X that caught my attention, and it was Candace Owens responding to someone's question. I'm going to show you the clip here, but let me just set the groundwork. And she answers the question, and it has to be probably the most ignorant statement I've ever heard from her. Now, no matter how you feel about Candace Owens, you do have to give her credit for the work that she's put in to build what she's built. And nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. There's no question about that. I get a lot of things wrong as well. But I would be remiss if I did not at least call this out, because personally, I think I have some authority on this issue, and I do know what I'm talking about. So let's hear what she had to say about what military soldiers should do if they do not want to fight in this war with Iran. Take a listen.
LG19 writes, serious question, will there be jobs or community military members can join when I get a dishonorable discharge for not contributing to delete people or my body for the interests of a certain foreign nation benefit? I love this question. I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers. And I would have said a few weeks ago that Trump would never do that to you. He would never just throw you into an Israeli war. But right now, our planes are flying in the sky, and things are going nuclear. So I don't have that confidence anymore. And I'm comfortable with people being dishonorably discharged because the dishonor has come from our politicians. The dishonor has come from our politicians who routinely lie in our faces and are willing to let us die to serve their financial interests. So why don't they dishonorably discharge themselves from public office?
Yeah, so having served 13 years in the military, particularly the Army, I believe I have some level of authority on this particular issue to respond to Candace Owens, because I know she's not stupid. She's a very intelligent human being. However, that doesn't mean they're never going to make an ignorant statement. That is an ignorant statement. But first, what I want to do is talk about where I do agree with her on, and that is people in D.C. I know they don't care about military soldiers. Let's just be real. It's about power and influence. They love war. Why? Because it's a license to print more money, for them to make more money, and to expand their influence. No question about it. Everybody knows that. And let's not forget, the VA healthcare system is trash. I mean, illegal aliens get benefits and get paid way more than veterans do, and quicker. So that is true. However, telling military soldiers to disobey lawful orders, telling a military soldier to duck out of a war that they don't agree with, and then telling a military soldier to accept a dishonorable discharge is by far one of the most ignorant statements you can ever make, because you have no idea the negative impact of a dishonorable discharge on your record, especially when that military soldier gets out of the military and they seek to get a corporate job or a job that they truly need to support their family, and they do that FBI background check. Yeah, that's not a good look. And so, again, we criticize Tampon Tim for stolen valor. We've criticized multiple politicians and people on the news for lying about their military service. We should not encourage people to be like them. Okay, so having said that, let me get your reaction in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree with my reaction to Candace Owens. Let me know what you think about the new developments with Israel and Iran, and President Trump claiming that he's going to wait about 2 weeks to make a decision to exercise some diplomacy. We'll see. Doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. What's your take on what happened at the Dodgers Stadium and how the media pretty much lied about it? Didn't even bother to review the facts. Anyways, just give me everything that you think in the comment section below. Now, in our next video, there was a bombshell ruling from the Supreme Court where they are upholding the ban from the state of Tennessee in regards to gender-affirming care for minors. Obviously, this is a common sense decision. But guess what? 3 of the justices dissented, and some of the statements are outrageous, and you're going to want to take a look at them. So if you're interested in that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.